Hi, welcome. We're going to be starting a whole new series, and I wanted to give you an overview of what to expect. So in segment 1, we are going to be talking about why discernment is important. So that will be the overview for you. So in segment 2, we will be discussing and going over the definition for discernment, what is the spiritual gift of discernment, and an overview of apologetics, just a little breakdown for you. Third, we're going to be talking about what's the difference between wisdom and discernment. Also talking about being a watchman on the wall and a good Berean in these days. Lastly, on segment 4, I will be talking and really covering some pretty good Bible verses for you that will cover the warnings and where the Bible talks about discernment and how important it is to be aware of pitfalls that are out there in these days. So I hope this makes everything much more clear to you. Then right after this is going to be segment 2. Hi, I wanted to let you know that everything that I use as far as resources during this teaching series or any other teaching series that I have will be provided for you in the description, even if it's not said. Sometimes I promote a discernment site and I want you to know about it, and other times I just use resources for a definition or to explain something, something about what's going on or what's coming up next, and therefore it's just used not to promote the site, but just used as a little clip or a segment that was from there, but it's still all provided for you. Hi, welcome to the Light of Deception. Today we're going to get back to our new series called Discernment. Why does discernment matter? The last time we talked about this, discernment, I kind of opened it up with talking about what it means to have the gift of discernment, what it sometimes means to other people when you have the gift of discernment. Either they're going to receive the warning well or they're not going to be. That some people that are watchmen on the wall or they have the gift of discernment sometimes going in a wrong direction with that gift, and usually use it almost as a weapon instead of coming along to show love and use a loving warning. And sometimes that's a strong warning if that danger is really you're going to fall off the cliff, so they help you before you, like a warning sign before you jump right off the cliff where you don't know you're running right towards it. Now, this is something that I'm going to break down for you just so you kind of know the ins and outs of what discernment is. So, Christian discernment. Let me give you the breakdown. In Christianity, the word may have several meanings. Discernment can describe the process of determining God's desire in a situation or for one's life, or identify the true nature of things, such as discerning whether a thing is good, evil, or may even transcend the limiting notion of duality. Okay, next, the fundamental definition for Christian discernment is a decision-making process in which an individual makes a discovery that can lead to future actions. In this process of Christian spiritual discernment, God guides the individual to help them arrive at the best decision. So it's with prayer. It's with the leadings of the Holy Spirit to help you to understand that these things are, just kind of, you stand back before you really jump in the pool. Like you're going to be like, okay, so before I dive into this new book, this new series, this teacher, this practice, I'm going to stand back and I'm going to say, okay, so what is this person teaching? Where are they coming from? Where is their theology coming from? If I'm going to watch this movie, what is this movie going to be about? Is it really going to be about steadfast in the Bible, chapter by chapter, verse by verse, cover to cover? Is it going to be extra biblical in nature? Could it lead somebody astray? So you're going to be asking all these questions, and sometimes it's just that person that God has chosen to have eyes to see and ears to hear at that time that just happens to be their spiritual gift, might be able to see it more readily and be able to warn, being a good Berean in these days. So next, what is the gift of discernment? Spiritual discernment. So let's see what that is. The spiritual gift of discernment is also known as the gift of discerning the spirits or distinguishing between spirits. So there is a Greek word for that. The word describes being able to distinguish, discern, judge, or appraise a person, statement, situation, or environment. In the New Testament, it describes the ability to distinguish between spirits, as in 1 Corinthians 12:10, and to discern good from and evil, as in Hebrews 5:14. The Holy Spirit gives the gift of discernment to enable certain Christians to clearly recognize and distinguish between the influence of God, Satan, the world, and the flesh in a given situation. The church needs those with the gift to warn believers in times of danger or keep them from being led astray by false teachers. So this has some references in 1 Corinthians 12:10 again, and 1 John 4:1. Okay, now just looking at that as a breakdown for the spiritual gifts, some people do these spiritual gifts testing and stuff like that. I would lean away from most of those. God will lead you in all truth, so that way you will be able to pray about the gifts that God has given you, be able to use them to run the race this course that's set before you, and run it well. Now remember, you're going to make mistakes if you're in the discernment ministry, and if you're somebody that's gone a little hypercritical and actually been a little bit unkind. And what it happens is when somebody goes that route and becomes those people that are just really sounding mean instead of sounding loving, if they've said, they kind of look like they have all the answers when they don't, none of us do, and they've been really throwing somebody out there, and they could have dealt with it in a different way, but maybe their concept is true. Maybe what they've determined on this person is true. Also, I've seen people go on stage with people that teach false doctrine, that are into heresy, that are teaching deceptive things, and they show up on the same stage with them. Now, they do have a right to do that, but this is the problem. When you see somebody, and then they taught truth, and they stood there and within the heresies and the deception, they spoke truth. What happens in that case, because a lot of people think that warrants them to be there, is they don't say anything about the previous speakers or those who are going to come on next, and therefore they give creed to the other speakers that are there if they don't set forth a warning before they start speaking. So to be wise in those areas as well. So that would be something I would definitely do before speaking on anybody else's show. If our theology was different, if something was going on there that maybe I had already walked through that would be deceptive, maybe to bring that up prior to speaking on that show, and let the person know that has invited you that you're going to be doing that. Now they might rethink of you about having you on the show after that, but better to be safe than to mislead people, even if you're telling the truth. If you're standing on the stage or on a program or anything like that, got to be there for the right reasons, not to grow your platform. Those not to for any selfish means, but to just set forth truth as God gives you an opportunity to do so. So we're going to stop there, and when we come back, I'm going to be talking about the difference between wisdom and discernment. We'll talk a little bit about being a watchman on the wall. Okay, until next time, I hope the light of deception helps you stay out of the false light of deception. Until next time, thank you. Bye-bye. Remember to press like and subscribe to this channel. Thank you.